thinking about either broken.
Hey everyone, Sarah Nova, and this week we have a absolute gem of a model here. This is a 1977 Honda CB400f Super Sport. Now we did a video recently about a CB500f, and when we've talked about CB750s before, but I would say, well, this shares the architecture with all the models in the single overhead cam 4-cylinder Honda line. This one in particular is really its own bike. This one came out after, in 75, came out as a replacement for the Honda CB350F. Now, a little side note, history nerds, the CB350F was the last Honda that Soichiro Honda himself had a hand in developing. It was a beautiful bike. It was sort of a gentleman's cruiser, very underpowered, but smooth as silk, and it was made for just, tootling the countryside. But the American market hated it because it was really boring, really gutless. It was light, but you couldn't do anything with it. So Honda responded with this thing, which is the same motor, essentially, bored out another 50cc, call it. I forget the exact dimensions. Trying to pull that up, I don't have it. Bored out a little bit. The head, I think, has bigger valves in it, slightly, and they dropped a 6-speed gearbox in it. And it changed. Oh, and they also put this is a replica, but they had a 4-into-1 factory pipe. I wish this one did have that factory pipe because it's a work of art on its own. All the 4 pipes come down parallel and swoop out to the side to this huge collector that sweeps up the back. This is a modern Delkovic, great pipe, probably works better, but doesn't have the right look to it. The front ones just have this beautiful S on them that are gorgeous. Waterfall pipes, exactly. So 4-into-1 pipe from the factory. That was pretty pretty cool stuff at this time. And they were quick. When I talked about the 500 and its bigger brother, the 550, I said that they were great touring bikes, but when you started to hustle them, they really showed that they were not sport bikes. This frame is identical in design to that frame that works so terribly on a slightly bigger bike. But on this bike, it works. It's just small enough that you're not flexing everything, and you can actually hustle these things very quickly, and they stand up to it, and they love it. So it's sort of like the right package, the right size, the right shape for all this stuff, and it works out really well. Not crazy horsepower. I think you're talking, under 40, but pretty light package, right around 400 pounds. And the thing would rev to 10,000 RPM, and it wanted to be between 6 and 10 most of its life. You can tune them. People are getting 50 horsepower out of them at the wheel. You can't tune them too far because they do have some failures in them. Actually, another little aside: the reason that Pops Yoshimura switched from a Honda guy. People mostly associate Yoshimura with Suzuki's now. Still a Suzuki racing team with Yoshimura name on it. He started off as a Honda guy, and he switched from Hondas because of this bike, because Honda would not upgrade the cam chain. The cam chain kept failing during racing, and he said, I need something better than that. And Honda said, no, it's good enough. And he said, well, forget it. Suzuki's making bulletproof machines over here. I'm going this way. And he was right. This bike, when you push it to a just beyond a certain point, the parts really show themselves. What it does show is the potential of the design. The concept of this motor means it really can make a lot of power, and it actually can make more power than the parts in it. So that's, they could have done something about it. They chose not to. But that's fine. It's a beautiful bike. It's fun to ride. 18-inch wheels front and back, disc brake from the factory, which was standard at that point. Let's see, you got, this square tank here, kind of cool, for its time, modern, changing away from the old teardrops and excessive chrome of the earlier eras. The seat has a little kick up on the back, kind of racy, a little garish, you might even say. This bike in particular, this model, obviously has seen some weather, a little wear and tear. It's kind of a mix of, they had the customer had the tank repainted, and it's beautiful. One side cover is beautiful. Missing a cover on this side. The engine has got a ton of just gunk on it. Pipe obviously not correct. Fenders have been partially cleaned, but the chrome is shot on them. So not the greatest restoration as far as, trying to make something concourse and look like it came out of the showroom. But for a bike you're going to ride, I think this is spot on. It's nice to have a machine that you can actually take out. Starts to rain, you don't think you got to turn around and go home. You just keep riding. You can get a little dirty, get a little wet, put some miles on it, bugs juice all over it, and you don't have to panic about it. That's my kind of bike if you actually want to ride it. So yeah, there's not a whole lot more to say about them, this model in particular. But I will say that this was another example of Honda kind of showing that they could do what they wanted. Honda in the 60s in Grand Prix racing developed a reputation for just breaking the mold, and really doing things that others weren't doing in an effort to compete and get ahead and be top of the world, which they were. And they kind of showed that. Other companies had maybe one 400cc model, or one middleweight, one small bike, one big bike. Honda had went from the 350 to the 400. They had the 500 and the 550, and the 750, and all in 4 cylinders. While they also had their line of twins, they really had a huge lineup at this point. They're starting they were the second stage of taking over the world practically, building cars at this point as well. And they're really a powerhouse, and the engineers were just great. They made stuff that did. And this bike, you'd never have a problem with this bike on the road. It was super reliable, super fast for its time, and just super cool. Again, the reliability issues happen when you start using it way beyond its intended means. But even that being said, at the racetracks, these things would embarrass the big Z1s with 80 horsepower, because these could just tuck in around a corner and just carry corner speed. Nimble, agile, power where you want it, and just like I said at the beginning, it's a gem of a motorcycle. There are certain bikes that on paper don't necessarily make sense. My Buell, I would say, is one of them. The Moto Morini, also one of my favorites, is one of them. You look at the specs on paper and it's like, why would that, why would you pay any money for that when you can go buy a Gixxer, you can go buy something else. But when you get on them and you ride them, the sum of everything is so much more than the parts are, and this is one of them. So if you ever have the opportunity to ride one of these, do it. If you ever have wanted to get one and you haven't bought one yet and you can, go buy it. What are you waiting for? Please, chime in with stories about single overhead cam Hondas. Way late for that, but let me explain what that means. I rushed through that at the beginning. The single overhead cam Honda was the line of Hondas that started with the CB750 in 1969, and it means just what it says. It's an overhead cam. Cam's in the top of the engine. Single, one cam running the back and the width of the engine, and that was a breakthrough for this time, when most of the machines before it were push rod motors with the cams down below. Fairly advanced for its time, fairly out of date for this time. But the SOHC line lasted from 69 to 82 with the last of the CB7 650s. They stretched it in the 80s with that. Great design, tons of potential in it, and all of the single overhead cam lines are gems in their own way, but this one is, to me, the cream of the crop. So if you have any experience with these, any other SOHC4 Hondas, chime in the comments. Love to hear these stories. And as usual, thanks for watching, and subscribe if you haven't to the channel.